Good September Thursday morning. Hope everyone's September has been going well so far, and we and are looking forward to a profitable and cool October as we get heavy into fall shipping and all the fun things that the fall run has to offer us. Today, I just want to kind of give a little run of a show of what will be of our presenters today. We'll have our board of directors spotlight will be Mr. Brad Cotton, who is currently our treasurer of the United States Cattlemen's Association. We will have Molly Linville with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife talking to us a little bit about predator management. Here for our spotlight, ringside recap would be Bart Medgen of Miles City Livestock Commission. And then we have Tim Olson out of St. Ange, South Dakota. So just a neighbor of mine who's a man of many trades and things, but he will be talking to us a little bit about his operation on making cow work a little easier. So I will go ahead and kick it off to our board of directors and treasurer, Brad Cotton.
Good morning. Can you hear me clearly, Maggie?
We can.
Hello. Okay, yeah, I'm out in the pasture. I just got started some irrigation. We're dry down here in South Texas. I mean, we're just southeast of San Antonio, about 20 miles. I run a registered Brangus seed stock operation. Yeah, we're dry and we're still warmer than we want to be. As you said, I'm treasurer at USCA. Got started with them 5 or 6 years ago. I'm not a long-time member. I've always admired the work they did. I'm a past president with the Independent Cattlemen's Association of Texas and found that the work USCA did was very similar to what we do, but they're on a national level and we're on a state level, but we are an affiliate. I had so much fun, they let me be a state vice president again, so it looks like the presidency's coming up again. But anyway, USCA represents your cow-calf producer, actually all cattlemen, put it that way. But I don't know, that there's issues that come up, and it seems like sometimes we're on the opposite sides of the fence from the packers, and USCA seems to always side with the cattlemen, not so much the corporate world, and I guess that's what drives me to them the most. I mean, I feel like they're always looking out for our interests. Anyway, I've been to a few of the trips with them. I've been to Nashville to a meeting. We've been to Washington D.C. and they're kind of like family. The longer I'm around them, the more I enjoy the company with them, and I feel like we get things done that have a positive impact for the cattle associations. Anyway, as far as our ranch, we're seed stock Brangus. I raise probably 40 to 50 bulls a year, and in the past few years, I mean, they seem to sell really quick. That's not an issue. We raise a good number of females. The top ends we cut off for ourselves. Then we sell some in registered sales, and then the others. To me, I always tell people, I said they're not inferior by any means. They're just not superior, and we've got some of those going to Jordan Livestock bred up next week. So, commercial Brangus females down here are bringing a premium. So as your cattle are in your areas, but. Anyway, so that's kind of the way we approach it. We do sell a few, just, if we don't feel like they need to be part of our program, we'll sell a few through the sale barns, not many. And let's see what else I could tell you about our operation. I'm at the point now we're big enough to where it's all I can do to get it all done, but not big enough to hire a bunch of full-time help. So I always tell people, I said, I got one employee that's very honest, works hard, daylight to dark. And I said, but quite frankly, I'm getting kind of tired. So, but anyway, that's pretty much where we're at and what we're doing. I can answer any questions. I mean, one other thing I did forget to mention, it doesn't mean a whole lot, except that I work for free. I'm also president of the Texas Brangus Breeders Association here in the state of Texas. So, plenty of work to be done. I as a younger person, I felt like I didn't have time to do any of those things. And the older I got, I realized you just had to make time because it's important that somebody fill those positions and look out for the interest of the industry that I love so much.
All right.
So
Thank
I'll
you,
answer any
Brad.
questions you may have or anybody else may have. And other than that, I'll just sit back and listen.
Perfect. Any questions for Treasurer Cotton? All right. Well, thank you, Brad. So sounds like you're keeping busy. You and Justin Tupper always manage to keep yourselves busy, but then also know when it's time to be important and celebrate time with friends and family as well. So thank you, Brad. I really do enjoy you on our
Thank
board
you.
and seeing you every time in person. So we'll move on here
Thank
to
you.
our main presenter for today, and Molly Linville, and I'll let her introduce herself and talk to us a little bit about predator management on the ranch.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. Hello, everybody. My name's Molly Linville. I'm the owner operator of KV Ranch, and that's the ranch in the background. We're in Washington State, but we're in the arid portion of Washington State. We get about 9 to 12 inches of precipitation a year. Um, so my other hat that I wear is I am a Fish and Wildlife Commissioner for Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. And I came to that because of predator management. I'm kind of a glutton for punishment and like to sign up for things I don't have time to do. Here on the ranch, I started out as a cow-calf operation, and actually rolling back a little bit farther than that. I started out my working career as a wildlife biologist for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and this ranch here is my husband's family's ranch. It's been in the family for 110 years. And his father had always said that he wasn't leaving the ranch to us. So I had never really thought about becoming a rancher. I was raised on a wheat and barley farm 2 hours from here. And so in 2011, my husband's father got very sick very quickly and passed away very quickly. And lo and behold, he had left the whole ranch to us. And so we had federal jobs and we had to decide if we were going to quit, the life where you get paid vacation and sick leave and weekends are off and all of that and become cattle ranchers. And I was a resounding yes, and my husband was a resounding no. So we compromised, and I now run the ranch and he works off of the ranch. A couple years ago, I broke my hip and found out it's not good being a sole operator when something like that happens. And so I ended up selling my entire herd, which was probably the most painful thing I've ever done in my life. I had a lot of good girls that had a lot of really good genetics that run in this country really well. And I now custom graze other people's cattle, and that's been a really good move for me. It's nice to put an invoice in the mail each month and get a check back. So I have some irrigated ground that I run in the summer, and then the cattle are out on the range ground in the winter. So, anyways, that's not why I'm here to talk to you. Just wanted to give you the lay of the land. So, in Washington State in 2008, wolves started returning to the state. There's a lot of sort of speculation that the Department of Fish and Wildlife relocated them back into the state. They'd been extirpated from the state since about 1930. But the truth of the matter is that they were just coming in from Idaho and British Columbia down back into the state, and they're starting to set up shop. And our cattle producers in the Northeast were already beginning to struggle with this new predator on the landscape. The cattle hadn't seen this predator, the producers hadn't seen this predator. And so the state started a wolf advisory group. And so I volunteered to be on that. I was on that for 5 years. And sort of simultaneously at the same time on the ranch, when we got here, we had a huge mountain lion load. Doesn't really look like cougar country, but it really, really is. We have a game camera photo from the ranch with 8 cougars in one frame. So I was like, oof. So I had on the cougar front, I had deployed livestock guardian dogs, and um, it was working really, really well as far as the mountain lions go. But livestock guardian dogs have their own issues that come along with them. And so I was frantically trying to figure out, how to manage these dogs that aren't fenced in. And for example, my neighbor was calving earlier than I was, and all my dogs would run off to his place and guard his cows while they were calving and leave our ranch totally, totally unprotected. So anyways, and then uh, the wolf thing really started firing up, and um, all it's really interesting in our state because there, the northeast portion of our state, the wolves, that's where the wolves are coming in, and the agency ran a lot of models, and we sort of had them dispersing out and across the state, and we have a certain number of packs and a certain number of individual wolves that we will consider the population recovered in the state of Washington. And so, but what ended up happening was these wolves just started piling up in the northeast corner of the state and not dispersing. And so we have that poor corner of the state is really struggling. The economics up there are pretty challenging, and they have every predator there is, including a small handful of grizzlies. Um, and something about Washington State is that we have a coast, and we have people in those really urban areas that have really, really strong opinions about what should happen in areas where they don't live. And so, really, for us, it's been more of a people management issue. But getting down to, how, and that's only going okay, the people portion of it. Um, what we started learning though, like the nuts and bolts on the ground is, and that we had producers that were historically able to turn their cattle out. The northeast portion of our state is very heavily timbered, and it's just a kind of a challenging place to get eyes on cattle on any day. And it has its own set of, it's the topography, it's super steep, all the things. And what we had producers who were very used to just being able to sort of turn their cattle out in the spring after the calves got a little bit of size on them. These are a lot of federal grazing allotments, and then just go back for them in the fall. And wolves really have changed that, sort of opportunity. We're finding that it's very, very helpful to have human presence out there. That timber makes everything challenging. You can't sort of use drones. You can't uh, use night range riding. It's just way too dangerous. And so we are still getting a lot of, depredation. Not, well, actually, I'm not going to say a lot. That's the one thing about predators is people sort of everybody wants like 100% win. It's never going to be 100% win. Like we're always going to lose some cattle. In our state, it's complicated because half of the state, the wolves are federally listed, and in half the state, they're state listed. And so um, there's only half the state where we can use lethal removal. Thankfully, that portion is in the eastern part where they're sort of all piled up. So, some of the take home, and Maggie, please, can you watch the clock for me? Because, okay, I could get going on this, and I want to be more succinct than this. Sort of some of the take home messages that we found is, it's very frustrating for producers to not be able to just sort of turn out cattle because I know everybody's got haying to do, they've got water to change, they've got all these things going on. But the fact of the matter is, this apex predator is now back on our landscape. And I find, it's good that, so I'm sort of talking to young producers or new producers here because I think the biggest struggle has been for older producers to change how they do business. And I would love nothing more than for them to be able to continue the way of life that they've had. But I just think the landscape has changed so much, the political landscape, and then the landscape with these apex predators on it. And so it's amazing just how much paying attention helps with predators. Like, knowing what your cattle are doing, knowing what's normal for them. Um, Another thing that I think is really important is that if your state agencies are willing to work with you, to let them help you out. We're really naughty as cattle producers about not wanting to share, the realities of our life and our operations with agency folks, and then we complain because they don't help us in a way that's useful to us. And so if they're wanting to give you tools to manage predators, whichever predator or multiple predators you may have, it's really good, I think, to accept that olive branch as best as you can for your operation. Another thing that I think is really helpful in that vein is if you can get sort of conception rates as a baseline and your death loss rates in a normal year, if you're in an area where predators are starting to, come back in, I realize that's not how it's happening everywhere. That's sort of a Washington specific state, but it's good to have baseline data on your herd so that later, if the pressure is, causing, you know, um, sub-lethal problems for you. In other words, it's not just that the predator is killing your cattle, it's that your pregnancy rates are down or whatever it is, your weaning weights are down. Then you have the proof and if there's reimbursements, you'll have that baseline in place. And I hate that that's the how it is now, but that's kind of how it is now, at least in our state. You have to sort of prove that you're experiencing problems that are outside of the norm. Um, I for me personally, the thing that has been the single best tool. So we have a high mountain lion load. We have a collared wolf or two kicking around, but we don't really have good wolf habitat. So I'm not experiencing pressure from wolves. They're just transitory. They're heading somewhere else when they go through our ranch. But my single biggest, most important tool is my stockmanship skills. And I personally have invested a lot of time and effort and money in learning Bud Williams stockmanship. And I try to go for sure to one stockmanship class a year and multiple if I can, just because it's really super fun. And I started that because I'm here by myself and I needed to be able to move, 300 head or whatever by myself. I needed to be able to doctor cattle by myself. I needed to be able, and I don't rope and I'm never going to learn how to rope. I think it would just be a disaster. I gave myself that one out. I had to learn everything else, but I did not make myself that learn how to rope. So, um, and so anyways, what I've learned though is not only is having really good stockmanship skills useful for, when you're working by yourself, or if you're coming to this as a new producer and you don't, I mean, I'm learning that a lot of folks don't have horsemanship skills. And so that, if you're coming to this, maybe you're a farm slash, with a side cattle operation, which is very typical in part of our state, that you have both. And so stockmanship skills are so important for all that. I have so much confidence that I never worry. I know I can take the cattle anywhere I want to take them. I can place them out where I need to graze. But a nice benefit that I learned was that I could really work with my cattle to be able to handle a lot of pressure. And I practiced with them and I would put a lot of pressure on them and like in a round pen or what have you. And when they would turn and face me, then I would take the pressure off. And what I found with the cougars was that the cattle, when they didn't run from the cougars, they no longer lost calves. The cats weren't going after the full-grown cows; they were killing calves. And once the cattle understood that if they turned and faced and bunched up, that's another thing that stockmanship sort of just naturally does. It sort of rekindles that herding instincts. And this is a lot easier. I want to also make it clear this is a lot easier in my country where it's so open. I don't have any experience with stockmanship in dense timber. So, just to be really honest, I don't know what that would necessarily look like. Um, but for me, that has been just the best tool. It's in when you're excited to go out and work with your cattle, that makes your days better. And I think that good attitude, I don't know, I just like I'm starting to sound a little hippy dippy here, but like I just feel like good begets good. And um my cattle know, I mean, and they're not my cattle anymore, right? Like the cattle that I caretake because I'm a full care custom grazer. I move with the cattle, I do everything. And I do all the doctoring and whatnot, which actually there isn't a lot of doctoring to be done. And I think part of that is because the cattle are handled well from my perspective. I guess that's a little. So, um, I just feel like if I was to go back and do it all again, because keep in mind, I came from being a wheat farmer's daughter to, sort of running around 350 head of cows by myself. If I had to go back, I would have started, the things I would have focused on is I would not have focused on infrastructure at all on our ranch. Um, Unfortunately and fortunately, in 2017, the entire place burned and I lost every fence I had. And that's about, I don't know, 20 miles or so of fence. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because, I mean, it was awful, but it was also good because it made me sort of be able to think outside the box of where I really wanted the cattle to graze, not just because that's where a fence was. Anyhow, that's a little bit of a tangent, but I would focus, if I had to go back, I would start right away with the stockmanship skills. I think that is the singular most important piece to everything that I do. And um, as far as livestock guardian dogs go, I don't know. I'm always cautious um, how to talk to people about these dogs. They are a silver bullet in some ways, and they are the most maddening creatures on the planet in another. I currently have five, and then I have my border collies. And the ranch is about 12 square miles and they still don't stay home. And our nearest neighbor is miles off and they still don't stay home. I got a call just the other day from a golf course that's 17 miles away that three of my guardian dogs were on the golf course eating hot dogs. Um, so um, I'm very like I feel like you need to think about your place. Is it, could you fence these dogs in? That would be very nice. As you can see, for us, those basalt cliffs in my background are part of our sort of fence line, right? Like the topography is what keeps the cattle in parts of our ranch, but it doesn't keep the dogs in. They go straight up those cliffs, if you can imagine that. Um, with wolves, guardian dogs can be used well, but they also can, if you are near a den or a rendezvous site for wolves, your dogs can actually cause more problems than they solve. And so, if you don't know where your den sites are, if you have any near your place, or where their rendezvous sites are, um, it's pretty hard to deploy dogs well. The other thing is I hear about people training these dogs and that their dogs have recall and everything. I don't even know if my dogs know their names. I mean, they are awesome. They're perfect for if your predator load is mountain lions. Gosh, it just doesn't get any better. We don't lose anything. We don't lose anything to coyotes. We don't lose anything to mountain lions because of these dogs. They're amazing. But they are also problematic. We have a road that bifurcates the entire ranch and it's scenic out here. And so bicyclists are out here all the time. And those dogs escort those bicyclists off the ranch. And it's caused a lot of problems. And the sheriff said the dogs are going if you don't figure this out. So what we do is we have the dogs penned up during the day and then we turn them out in the evening when there aren't bicyclists out, which is great, except predators are really smart and they start figuring out that whole process, which is sort of amazing. And so, we have one dog we know that doesn't chase bicycles, so he's out during the day. Thank, thank you, Whiskey. We're glad to have him. Um, uh, just kind of to be succinct, um, stockmanship, I think, is super important. Paying attention to your livestock. I know that's a headache. I know we all have other things to do, but I just think if you're in an area where you have a heavy predator load, I just don't think you get an option anymore. It, I mean, if you're okay with the death loss, then I guess you do have an option. But I don't think I think most people, really, really care about their livestock and they don't want to see them get killed. Human presence is helpful for wolves, but you're still going to lose livestock. I know I can't remember is it Cottonwood Ranch? There's a ranch that I watch on Instagram and they are doing sort of a nomadic herding situation and they've got all these interns and it totally works for them. But I can't imagine having to manage that many people. So I can really relate when people are like, I just can't. Because I just can't either. Am I a little long on time, Maggie?
You're doing good. If and I just wanted to kind of say if there's any other questions too, we could feel free to
Yeah, I
pop
think
up to you guys and
yeah, for sure. Would you like to ask if there's questions? Because I'm kind of I mean those are in a short amount of time, those are my like sort of solid things to be thinking
yeah.
about. But I questions would be great because then I could maybe be more helpful specifically.
Yeah. I know in my area, where my family ranches in South Dakota, there is a lot of sheep and cattle being raised together. So we do see a lot of those kind of on the herd dogs as well, just to kind of help with the coyotes, especially our kind of open prairie land up in the northwest area of South Dakota. So I do see the benefits of the dogs, and I have heard the same struggles of them not staying home as well. But with I mean, and those that factor could kind of be kind of similar to any region. I like you said, I'm not used to timber. I know we do have the Black Hills area. My family hasn't ranched in any of those either. Um, Actually, on our place, we have been seeing a little more mountain lion sightings, and we've and have a few family friends of ours that actually do kind of come out and they have um, they have dogs that can help tree them and take care of what we need to. So that's just kind of a little experience I have on my end of things. And is there any questions from anybody here today on the line? Got a quiet bunch this morning.
That's okay. The Zoom world is a little awkward. I totally understand that. That
Yeah.
that that is, so that's another, you brought up a great point, May, is like, so in Washington, again, I think it's because we do have a really high, we have the highest population on the smallest landmass in the Rocky Mountain West. And then we have this really huge urban population. And so we can no longer use dogs on mountain lions. And that is just so each state, that's the challenge. California is even worse. I don't know if you have any California producers, but that has gotten really. I have a friend who works in California on predator mitigation, and he is really, really, really good at his job, and he's been successful in Montana and Wyoming and Idaho. But in California, there's no game left literally for the wolves to eat. And so they just have to eat livestock and they are. And it's like, it's when you're in that sort of situation, that's a whole different ball game. And it's really, really unfortunate. So how, the Fish and Wildlife agencies, and I know some folks are Department of Natural Resources in some states, how they manage also impacts cattle producers and how we manage predators. And it's when I go to stockmanship classes, it's usually in the Centennial Valley of Montana. And another thing that you said makes me think this too, and that's where they have a lot of grizzlies, and it's funny because they're like, oh, wolves are a piece of cake. It's grizzlies that are hard, and grizzlies are now moving it back. I mean, they were originally a prairie animal, and they're now moving back into the grasslands, and so that could be another predator on the landscape that your cattle are not used to and that they have to figure out and grizzlies are like they're pretty hardcore. There's no and again their listing makes a difference, right? That you can't just yet kill a grizzly because they're protected, so that does make a difference in in how you manage your cattle in these areas or any livestock for that matter.
All righty.
Hey Molly,
Hey,
I've got a quick
yes,
question for you if there's
Sure.
time. This is Mary Jo Foley.
Hi,
Good
Mary
to
Jo.
hear from you, and I've always appreciated just your ability to give such great information and understanding. And I was thinking out in Oregon, obviously we have very similar dynamics to what you deal with in Washington as well. And one of the things I was thinking about is, do you have any advice for folks that are grazing out on their allotments? I know a lot of the guys out here, they turn out on their Forest Service allotments, and then when they take them off, it's a matter of just kind of holding your breath and seeing how many you lost. So is there anything that, things that can be done kind of while you're out on your allotment to just kind of prevent some of that depredation from your
Yeah,
perspective?
yeah. So from my perspective, it goes back to that reaching out. I know ranchers are not good at this, but it's reaching out for help. So we have some environmental organizations in the state of Washington that are willing to pay for range riding. Our Department of Agriculture has a riding program, and so does our Department of Fish and Wildlife. And so it's not a fix, right? Like it's just you doing the very best that you can for your cattle. Um, and it's sort of like in my mind, it's a little bit like your money, right? Like when you pay attention to where your money's going and what it's doing, it tends to stick around a little bit better than if you just like, meh. And I think it's the same. And so, I would it's hard because in Washington we've struggled a little bit with the environmental groups and the conservation groups kind of maybe like like how do I say this well? Maybe thinking that they are going to tell producers how to handle their cattle. That doesn't land well. And so what we've sort of moved towards in this state anyways is that okay, they pay for the range riders, and there's sort of some training that has been set up that they have to go through, but those range riders can even be family members of the ranch. They can be pics of the ranchers, and that has been going over better. And then the conservation organization pays their time. So that's been really helpful. Um, Again, like if you have in Washington, anyways, if you work with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, you can get collar data and they can help you understand where those den and rendezvous sites are, and that can be helpful. You can potentially, sort of if you start having problems, maybe avoid some areas. The other thing we're doing in this state is we are setting up alternative grazing allotments, which is not, it sounds really good. Like, so if they're getting really hammered in an area and they've tried lethal removal and the livestock is still getting hammered, we have somewhere for you to take your cattle. That's a headache. I don't love taking my cows somewhere I don't know, and I don't love taking, people don't understand that cows get so used to like where their water sources is and everything. And so I'm, but my point is that, reach out. Sorry to have to tell you that, but this, in order, it's more important that you stay in business in my mind than think I don't want to work with the enemy or I don't want to work with, and I'm a person who doesn't take government money, so I'm a little bit like saying do as I say, not as I do. But I would take up those programs. But also, if you just really, really can't, it does seem like human presence does help with wolves on those grazing allotments. So get up there as often as you possibly can, or have somebody up there if you can.
Awesome.
Awesome. Much
Morgan,
appreciated.
yeah, thanks, Mary Jo, for that great question. Morgan Koff, sorry if I butchered your last name there. I did see your hand raised there. Did you have a question for Molly today?
Yeah, Mary kind of asked my question, but I was just curious. You mentioned that you're bringing in custom grazers, and with this predation, threat. I'm in Minnesota, and I know several guys in northern Minnesota are dealing with predation issues on cattle. Good sized herds of custom grazing cattle. How do you have that discussion with bringing custom cattle in like that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I am very, very choosy about the families. All these custom cattle are from family ranches, and I'm very choosy about my customers, so to speak. Mostly because they have to. I am a control freak. I'm an absolute control freak, and I'm going to be the one moving the cattle, and I'm going to be doing all the things, and so they have to trust me too. And so another piece of it is their cat, I had to work very hard for their cattle to get used to these giant white dogs. And I very purposely set out doing that. And I told them up front that it's going to take a little bit while for your animals to get used to these dogs, but I have a plan for how that's going to work. And so the other thing about it is my producers all have the same predator loads on their ranches as I do. So it's not the only thing to get used to for those cattle is the dogs themselves. And I put eyes on basically every cow. I don't know, that's not true. I lose cows behind sagebrush all the time. I don't know how people do it in the timber. Um, so, we set up, here's another thing that's really important. We set up an acceptable death loss before in the lease. Like, what can you tolerate? What do you think is reasonable? And it's funny, I have different sort of sets of expectations from my different producers. Um, so the point is I try to be really, really honest about, what this is going to look like and how it is, but that I have a plan to mitigate for it. Does that answer your question? You broke up a little bit when you were asking it.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. Like, yeah, you answered it perfectly.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Molly, so much for joining us here today. Really do appreciate it. And we think hopefully everybody has answered their questions, got their questions answered. If not, we can always email us at my email, Maggie at wssdc.com or uscattlemans at uscattlemans.org. All right, we are going to move on here with our ringside recap with Bart Medjin of Miles City Livestock Commission. So Bart, if you're on the line with us, you can go ahead and give us a quick snapshot and market report of what your sale barn and your area is doing. No trouble here connecting.
Well, hello, Maggie. Thanks
Hello,
for having
Bart.
me
How are
here.
you doing?
Real good. Thanks for having me here today. We're sure in a good place here with our markets here. It's kind of unprecedented going forward here for the next year, 2 years. I think we're in for a good couple of years of market here. Our beef demand is real great, and in light of the beef prices we think are higher, but in the realm our goods and services, beef's not very high. So I think going forward here, market's in good shape. We got a lot of feed out there in the U.S. And a lot of demand for beef out there.
Perfect. I've been to Miles City a few times, as my family also does some calf order buying and cow order buying. So always fun to go travel and see all these different sale barns. Miles City is probably one of my favorites to be because it's just a little different operation and setting than what St. Ange is. And it's always a good time to be in Miles City. So thank you, Bart, so much for joining us today. And any questions real quick for Bart? All righty. Well, thank you again. And if you guys are ever in Miles City, Montana, stop by and look at the facilities there. All right. So next here, we'll go on to Tim Olson, my neighbor just down the road. Man of many traits, as I said, Justin Tupper's probably favorite pilot. And he's going to be talking to us today a little bit on some equipment that could be making working cattle just a little easier. So Tim, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, Maggie, can you hear me all right?
We can, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm not very technologically savvy, and I've always have to say this whenever I get in front of people, but I'm not a professional speaker, so I'm as nervous as a cull cow at a breeding school. So I always get a little bit anxious when I try to talk about what we do. However, yeah, Maggie contacted me to basically tell our story and what we do and kind of the things that we do to make everything easy. And the name of our business is Cattle Resources. We're based in Western South Dakota, but we serve producers all over basically 4 states: Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, and North Dakota. And basically every day we are going out in the country and we are working cows. And in order to do that every day, we have to really kind of figure out how to do that easily. So our motto that we've been using for the last 20 years is just make cow work easy. And I'll give you just a brief background of my life and my wife's life and when we started together and how we progressed as a business. But and that will kind of set the stage to help you understand what we do and the volume in which we do it. I've been working for Select Sires, AI company, since 1994. I was started out in North Dakota, I worked in Western North Dakota for 3 years, and then moved down to Western South Dakota and developed the beef AI business in this area. When I started in this area, there were actually over 70 dairies in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and they asked me to come down and take care of those dairies. And unfortunately, in about 5 or 6 years, they were all out of business. And the only way that I could survive in the AI industry is to do 100% beef cattle. So, and then the herds in our area geographically are just they're just a little larger than they were in Western North Dakota. So I started to have to, instead of training people to do their own breeding, who you can teach someone to breed a cow, but they're not quite comfortable doing more than 20 or 30 head a year. So we basically had to provide some full turnkey programs, some synchronization protocols that we would implement on the farms for people. And we went from slowly, breeding a couple thousand head a year to, within a short time period, we're breeding 12 to 15,000 head per year. And that's in a very concentrated time of the year, basically May, June, July, and the first half of August. So in about 120 days, we are breeding about 12 to 15,000 head per year. And like I said, we basically concentrate between Sheridan, Wyoming, and Pierce, South Dakota. Our average herd sizes that we're working with on an AI basis is about 250 to 300 head. So there we have to have multiple teams of people going out on the same days, taking care of people. And we do everything from the gathering and the sorting to just showing up and doing the breeding. So we will offer as little or as much help as it is possible or as needed. And when I started my business, most people were very, very interested in implementing an AI program, but they didn't have the labor or the facilities to facilitate that. So they would basically just say, the cows are out there in that pasture, go knock yourself out. So we started traveling with a crew of cowboys and sets of panels and alleyways and equipment to basically help sell semen in our area. And so I did that for a few years with a small group of interns or a couple full-time people, and until I met my wife Chandy, who was in vet school at Kansas State at that time. And when she graduated from vet school, she wanted to focus primarily on beef cattle reproduction, and I had kind of already laid that groundwork for us, and it fit really well. And she basically focused on pregnancy diagnosis via ultrasound. At that time, it was fairly a unique operation. Everybody was still hand palpating cattle at that time, with the exception of a handful of very, very well-respected, very proficient people in our area. And we were able to kind of slip in with them, learn from them, and really bring it to another level. And that is mainly our concentration. We now currently have 4 veterinarians that work for us, and we are primarily, this time of the year, we are going 4 different directions, and we're ultrasounding cows for diagnosis via ultrasound. In any given year, we do between, I'm guessing, 100 to 120,000 head. And in that same practice area from Sheridan to Pierre, however, that circle does get bigger. We've been in Red Lodge, Montana one day, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota the next. So we cover a lot of ground. So we're basically so we started our own business called Cattle Resources with Chandy and I, and we currently have 7 employees, welder, fabricator, and office personnel that keep us in line. In addition to our veterinary business and our AI business, something that came along naturally was equipment sales, and so we have that has turned into what was somewhat of a sideline to a major enterprise. We were fortunate enough to have good advice from our other veterinarians in the area that said, don't try to do what we're doing without good equipment. So this is the part that Maggie really asked me to talk about, was what we do with equipment and how to do it well out in the country. But besides the equipment, one of the most important things, or the most important thing to do things well in the country, is being prepared and good communication. You have to know how to ask the right questions. So when you do show up on site, you know exactly what you're doing, what we're looking for, and being totally prepared to do something with that animal once we have it caught. That's always disheartening after the third cow leaves the chute and the manager or the producer says, "Oh, we were supposed to do this," and she's already turned out in a 1,000-acre pasture. So being prepared, having good communication, and being ready to accomplish the goals that that producer has for the day is really the number one thing that needs to take place. And so preparation is number one. And like my good friend told me, don't try to do this without good equipment. Now, besides the good equipment, it's also worth our time to go out and investigate facilities. Just like Molly mentioned earlier, she's a true stock person and is really interested in the Bud Williams stockmanship training, and that is along the same lines as what I do. So we try to use the cattle's instinct to make the cattle work easily. And by taking the little bit of time and research of facilities, we can go out and with some very minor changes, when the rest of our crew comes in to actually do the work, we can make it go well and we can make it go easy. And people aren't angry at the end of the day working with family or friends. So we implement those technologies, and then the equipment we use, we truly believe is the best. And we're always looking for something better. If there was something better, we would definitely be using it. And we focus primarily we do most of our work with the silencer chute, portable silencer chutes, Daniels alleyways. Those can be the major bones of any operation to help you accomplish some huge goals and do it well and without putting a lot of stress on the cattle. But being where we were talking about earlier, we're leasing, we have a lot of customers that run on rented ground or are leasing grass pastures many, many miles away from here. So then we needed the ability to gather them and put them in a facility. So we also handle the portable corrals. We handle the rawhide portable corrals and the conquistador portable corrals. Both of those are made in Kansas. We feel those two pieces of equipment are the best. So if you compare, or if you can group a Daniels alleyway, a silencer chute, and a rawhide or conquistador corral, you can handle as many as 300 head in one corral. If you pair two corrals up, we've done as many as 800 to 1,000 head in a day with two corrals, a Daniels alleyway, and silencer chute. So a lot of people have those rotten corrals that their great grandpa built 20 years ago and built out of wood, and they are rotting into the ground. And instead of taking the time and the money to rebuild those, a lot of people are just buying these portable pieces of equipment to help get through that. They're only 2 or 3 times a year that they use them. The other great benefit of using good portable equipment is, we go where the cattle are, and we don't have to gather them and trail them for miles just to be able to work them in a specific set of corrals. So our main goal right now is we just kind of lower the stress levels on the livestock and the people, so we can bring these portable units out into the country. Everybody seems to have extra vehicles kind of going that direction, so it's kind of like a traveling circus. We can set up a set of corrals while the customer's out there gathering, and oftentimes we are set and ready to go by the time they get back to the corrals. So taking the facilities to where the cattle are has really helped improve a lot of people's environment working in our area. We carry a lot of this equipment on hand rent it out because it is a large investment. However, everybody knows the logistics of, 35 ranchers sharing one piece of equipment. So we sell all this equipment that we use every day as well. So um, I'm just kind of rattling pretty quickly, Maggie, but um, is there anything else? Any questions so far?
Any questions for Tim here? I know our family has used the rawhide and the conquistador probably. We've probably used both of them, lacing them through Tim, and they definitely make life, especially during branding time, is kind of when we use them a lot and kind of heavier. Definitely make it a lot easier being able to uh, quickly set up something and not have to worry about setting up posts and things and making sure that nothing will break also while we're sorting calves off of cows and kind of things like that. When I was talking to Tim about asking, the probably the toughest part is folding it back together. There might be a little family tension. At least in my family, there's always kind of been there's always arrows, but some people just don't pay attention to the arrows. So, showing the screen here just a little of kind of what these products do here, and if you guys have any questions, I can put you guys in along with in contact with Tim and things. And but any questions while we're here on the line?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Rawhide Corrals, their motto is one person, 10 minutes, no lifting. And I firmly believe with every person you add to the situation, you add 10 minutes. So if you have 3 or 4 people in there, it's truly going to take you 30 minutes to fold it up because everybody has a different opinion on how to get it done. But we're working on simplifying instructions or actually designing the equipment that it doesn't matter how you fold it up, you can still accomplish the goal and get it done. But with all of our experiences that we've had for the last 30 years, it's really given us some insight onto what it takes to make cow work easy, and I trust that whenever you have interest in something like this, that you talk to someone who does do it every single day. I would kind of consider it, it's kind of like taking the opinion, taking financial advice from your broke friends is probably not very good advice. So get talk to someone knowledgeable, talk to someone that uses it every single day, and they can usually find something that best fit your scenario. The video that Maggie's showing right now is a new set of corrals that the folks that make the silencer chutes came out with recently. It's very nice to set up quickly and handle it with your hydrobed pickups, which are very, very common in our area. They are not as strong and robust or universal as some of the other corrals that we sell, but they do work nice when we are working cattle up at a grazing permit in the hills and you need to sort some cattle outside the front of the chute or need to sort for ownership. That works really well just to instead of backing your trailers up in front of the chute every day, which slows, or every 10 minutes, it slows progress up a lot. We can just set these out in front. And at the end of the day, we have our 35 or 40 head that we wanted to sort in a corral and load them all at one time.
Got one more here to show the conquistador. And if there's any questions, please go right ahead while we're.
Hey Tim, thanks so much, and thanks all of our guests here. This has been a great time this morning, Molly and Tim. Thanks for the day. What was this last one you're showing here? Just the one before the conquistador is fascinating me. It's one reason. Yeah, that one is just phenomenal. What was the one before that? What was the price point between that and the conquistador?
It's called you bet. It's called the all-purpose corral that Molly Manufacturing makes.
Okay. Okay, Molly makes that. Okay.
What's
the price point on that
versus the folks
conquistador?
that make the silencer chute.
Okay.
And you can get them in 3 different sizes. a 10 panel, a 14 panel, or a 20 panel.
Yeah.
And I had a 20 panel here just up until about 3 or 4 days ago. We set it up out in the pasture last week. We had a few bulls to treat for foot rot. We were a long ways from any type of corral or alleyway system, and we felt it was a lot easier just to get them gathered, load them in a trailer, haul them up to the main corrals, treat them, and bring them back. And in order to get those 3 bulls out, we brought about 10 head with. So we had 14 or 15 head total in that 20 panel system, and it gave us lots of room to readjust the panels so we can back our horse trailer in there, load things up, and take care of them. So
And you
it's like I
carry
said,
that. So
quick, easy.
I got to pull a bit. And some of that you can carry just with your bale bed, then, huh?
Pardon me?
Was that what? Can you do? Do you do that one with your bale bed too? Those Molly?
Yeah, the 20 panel. Yes,
Yeah.
we can do that with the bale bed as well.
I'll have to look into that one. Fascinating. Okay, cool. Thanks. I want that conquistador is just absolutely fascinating. That's what initially we really looking into those. So yeah, those are. It's so great awesome to get the real world experience for what you're talking about here. Thank you.
The great thing about the conquistador from MJE is when those folks were just developing those corrals, they had a lot of experience in that world, but they contacted me and they said, well, we know you're a huge fan of the rawhide corrals, and if there's a few things that you could change to make the rawhide corral better, what would it be? And I was able to share my ideas, and they implemented every one of them. So it's been very fun.
Yeah, I think that conquistador, just where you have and we're finding that out too. It's not when especially doing yearlings, it's you're sorting, and then you got to get different bunches off the main deal, and so you're oftentimes going by brands, and for us it's a program too. So you need the large pins, but you also need a few extra pins because sorting is only as good as having a few other options versus just in and out. And that conquistador is a phenomenal in that way.
Yep, and they do have an excellent website that helps you choose your size and configurations, and it's very nice to work with those as well. But yeah, that's why we handle several different options, because not everybody needs all the options that one of them does that the other one has. So.
All right, Matthew, did you have a question for Tim or the group here today?
Yeah, I guess, Tim, my question was going to be, do you find that there's any, like you had mentioned earlier, like, hey, that old grandpa corral that's got the wood, the cattle that are going through that consistently have kind of get used to that system. Is there anything that they take for that to get used to this, or is it pretty quickly that they adapt?
They do adapt pretty well. It's pretty intuitive, especially like we mentioned earlier, by using the Bud Williams stockmanship. If you set the corrals up in a certain spot, like for example, we rent these corrals out and we use them ourselves for branding, and we're not doing anything with the cows themselves. So we'll set it up in a part of the pasture that the cattle are easy to gather to, and then when they go in, just they get to the end and they want to come right back to where they came from. So if you get it set up well, the cattle will go in and you just let the cows out, and you hold or sort the calves. So cows go right back out, calves stay, and you can do that in any facility that you set up just by using the cattle's the instinct. Make their out gate very close to where their in gate is, and it makes things very easy. So a little bit of forethought and preparation, and the cattle really flow well. And you notice on that, the conquistador there, we have the bud box that's built right in, and there's even a sort gate in that bud box. So say you do get extra cattle in there, like sometimes it takes a cow or two to get in there just to bait the calves.
Right.
Fill the thing full, spill the calves into the holding pen, and let the cows back out. So we've used it all the time. Cows they adapt very easily.
Yeah. No, it looks like a great system. It really does. Obviously, I've not worked with it, or not obviously, but I haven't worked with it. But it looks yeah, if we had bigger pastures, it would definitely make sense. The other question I have, you had stated with the select sire side of the house, you guys are doing quite the AI. Is that traditionally with registered individuals, or is that taking the registered semen and then actually using that on commercial herds?
98% of my business has always been in commercial herds,
Cool.
commercial cow AI.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't understand why would you do that in a commercial cow situation, but it started out as managing dystocia and calving problems in virgin heifers. Back 30 years ago, we didn't have those proven calving ease genetics out there that you could just turn the bulls out and not anticipate C-sections and problems in calving the following spring. So when we could identify those pure calving ease genetics, that truly was a springboard for the AI industry and my business specifically. And at that time, there's a lot of herd building at the time, and people were speculating on heifer calves, AIing them, and selling them in the fall. And we did large groups, 2,500 to 4,500 head of heifers that we would breed to 2 different bulls and then sell them in the spring. And that's truly where ultrasound gained its popularity too, because
right.
Besides the genetics, which was one component, knowing when those cattle were born or will be born is just it's
Being
worth
able to
it.
decipher whether or not they were bred by AI or by bull bred is very imperative.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So the other question I have with that is, with this in this last, the herd rebuild that they talk about that's potentially coming, are you seeing a lot of guys that are breeding in heifers that are coming in, or is this kind of a still holding off situation?
This year we saw a little bit of building late in the season. The heifer calves were worth so much last fall that everything went to town. But they were out there someplace, and heifers that may have been intended for feeding purposes were brought back to the table for breeding rather than feeding.
Sure.
So we did pick up small little groups of speculator heifers late in the season, and we had to shoehorn them amongst our busy schedule already, but we got it done.
Sure. Nice. Super cool. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet.
All righty. Any more questions for Tim today? Well, I want to say thank you again to everyone that participated in today's call. We'll be having our October one a week later than normal. We'll be taking care of that one on October 23rd. So please mark that on your calendar, invite all your friends, or have them come and rewatch this recording. It will be up here by hopefully by tomorrow. If not, give us till Monday. We'll get her up and on our YouTube channel and then also on our website. So again, thank you and have a great day and happy fall to everyone.